Hey.
Total. Right, so this is chapter 9, section 1, the nature of interest groups. Alright, the role of interest groups. Interest groups gather people and resources to support public policies and help their members. They work to persuade policymakers like senators and representatives to support government actions that help their members. The First Amendment guarantees the right of the people peacefully to assemble and petition.
Public policy is the stand the government takes about a problem or an idea for improvement. Public opinion is a collection of opinions on the population. Public affairs are events and issues that concern the people at large. Politics, public issues, and making of public policy.
Political parties and interest groups. Interest groups do not nominate candidates and concentrate on one issue rather than political parties who are interested in many issues of public concern. Political parties are interested in winning elections and controlling the government, while interest groups are interested with controlling the policies and government.
So they kind of seem like they're very similar.
Well, they're pretty different. I wouldn't say they're the same. That's why they're called interest groups and political parties. They're two different groups. One doesn't really nominate candidates. They're in like one group. They only talk about one issue, like drinking problem, and they go together and organize maybe like a petition about that. It's not many issues like political parties. So
Okay, but they are similar in the sense that they want to influence power to get their ends, right? Or to get their goals achieved, right? So, I mean, would you see yourself more likely to be involved with a political party or an interest group or both or neither? And can you tell us why?
I would choose either one. I mean, if I was in it, they're trying to, in a way, make a change. It could be for the better, but sometimes how interest groups can actually, well, I'm going to talk about it later, but interest groups use tactics like they threat or bribe. So it's not really, I wouldn't really join the interest groups if they're doing that.
What if it's Mothers Against Drunk Driving, whose stated objective is to minimize or eliminate, if all possible, drunk drivers on the road?
Then I would join that cause.
So it kind of depends on...
Depends on the
so
issue, yeah.
It's really important how they achieve their goals. You want them to do it honorably and legally, and so that's important to you.
Interest groups and how they fulfill many functions in American society. They help stimulate interest in public affairs, are vehicles for political participation, provide additional checks and balances to the system, and compete with one another in the public arena.
Well, don't you think interest groups tend to have more influence than just the normal everyday citizen because they focus on a particular issue or issues, and they garner access to elected officials by donating money to their campaigns so that they can exert greater influence than the everyday you and me? Do you think that disrupts the democratic process?
Well, I mean, not in a way. They're like just keeping close tabs on if they're doing their job right, and if like they help them out, making sure they're like performing their tasks. So in a way, it's not really doing anything wrong.
Does it disturb you to know that some interest groups actually write the bill that congressmen or senators submit to their respective bodies, that the elected officials themselves don't even write it, it's handed to them already written and supposedly the expert research has been done? Do you find that disturbing that elected officials don't actually write it oftentimes?
Yes.
Yeah, in a way.
Well, maybe they're more of an expert in that area. Maybe they have the expertise needed to write that bill. Could you argue both sides?
Yeah. In a way, like if they know more knowledge about that law, they're letting them write it, so they should be allowed to, if they know what's right for the people, then I'm pretty sure it's all right to let them write it.
Do you think that the public should be fully informed about what's in that bill before our elected officials vote on it? The reason I bring that up is because probably the most blatant example of that is Nancy Pelosi, who used to be the Speaker of the House. She's from the kind of over in the coast here, the Napa Valley area. She used to be the Speaker of the House, and she was trying to help pass the Affordable Health Care Act. And she got caught in public saying about the bill, people were asking her questions about the bill, and it was clear she didn't even know a lot of what was in the bill. And she said to all these cameras were there, she said, well, you just have to pass it to find out what's in it. What? And she took a lot of heat for that. But, you know, it's not just her, it's a lot of other politicians that oftentimes submit bills largely from interest groups, largely because they've given them so much money and they're just moving the bill along.
That's true. Interest groups pose a problem. Some interest groups have an influence far out of proportion to the membership. Hard to tell how many people an interest group truly represents. Do not really represent the views of all the people for whom they claim to speak. And some groups use unfair or illegal tactics that they were to become widespread would undermine the political system like bribery and threats.
How might you see that bribery and stuff? Today and threats, how might we see that?
I guess if they do strikes, let's say close by the gates of someplace important, I guess they're using a peaceful way, then that's all right. But if they're using tactics like threats, say I'm gonna kill this person, or they're using bribery, then that could be an example.
So let me give you one, and you tell me whether you think that this is a tactic which is acceptable or not. About 4 years ago, in the state of Wisconsin, the governor there, Scott Walker, along with the Wisconsin legislature, passed some laws which took away some of the power that unions have a lot of power, and took away some of their power to dictate, because in some states you have to join a union if you want to work there. It's called a closed shop state. And Wisconsin, the governor and the legislature said that's not very American. If people want to work and they have the credentials, they should be able to work without having to be forced to join a union. And so they passed some laws. Well, the unions went crazy. They stormed the Capitol building in Madison and were camping out in the halls. They did sit-downs. They made the police haul them out. And then they went for a recall election on the governor. The governor survived that recall election. But then these same special interest union groups went to the parents' house of the governor and started protesting and picketing outside. These are old couple, like in their 80s, and were yelling at him and yelling all these obscenities at these old folks. And as these old people tried to walk to their car, they got like in their face and were yelling at them and screaming at these. Do you think those are acceptable political techniques to do that?
No, I don't see it as a peaceful act, like a peaceful protest. I see it as a violent. I wouldn't agree with that. No.
But they never touched anybody.
They were just expressing how they felt. in a way, but I mean, I can say that it doesn't go through being a violent act because they're just trying to protect what was theirs in a way. They don't want to go through some big deal since they're trying to, since their power is taken away in a way. They just don't want to lose what they've had, and they were just trying to express how they felt. So
you're okay with the techniques?
I would say I'm okay with it because nobody got hurt. So they were just expressing how they felt. It happened right here. Let's say a strike happened and people would just come out of their house and they would just get in the face protecting what they believe in, say abortion. No one's getting hurt. They're just expressing.
So Lupita, you went over to your grandparents' house. Imagine you're the governor and I just want to make sure you understand both sides. So you have a tradition of going over there every Sunday for Sunday dinner with your grandparents, right? Or maybe it's a birthday that's over at the grandparents' house. And you're bringing your children with you to that house, young children, and these union members are part of this interest group, start yelling obscenities at your children. You effing, bleepity bleep bleep kid. And while you're at the party, you're hearing it all through the house. They're just expressing their opinion.
Yeah. I see what you're trying to say there, that they can be disturbing somebody, and I mean, I don't know.
In a way you don't know.
Yeah, no, you can't really.
They're just
mind
like
that.
applying pressure on those who like are going against them in a way.
It's kind of tough to.
So do you think that's okay, targeting someone's parents who have nothing to do with any of the political stuff? I mean, the governor said, bring it on. You come at me all you want, but you don't go after my family. Do you agree with that or not agree with that?
What? Yeah. Don't go after the family.
Anyway, go ahead. Just want food for thought.
Yeah.
Critical thinking, right? Isn't that what we're about?
Yeah.
Well, it's just questions now. So, anyone can tell me how is interest groups different from political parties? Before I pick someone, how are they different in a way?
They focus on one issue,
Then a political party.
focuses on more than one.
And two, what are some disadvantages of interest groups? Frankie,
What was that?
you know number two?
Well, since they focus only on one, it's kind of hard for them to yeah, so since they focus on just one, I guess it's really I think it's hard for them to fix that issue or anything. So
Let me ask you this question. Frankie and a whole bunch of community members feel very strongly that, let's say a swimming pool should be built in the community to service all the young kids, the high schoolers, the parents, and all that. And he has gotten together a group of people and wants to express that to the school board. But the school board isn't too interested in what Frankie has to say, because Frankie really didn't give them any donations for their re-election campaign or their election campaign. He's just some guy who's got a lot of people who's interested. But Chava, on the other hand, has donated thousands of dollars to their election or their re-election campaign. And he calls them up and they say, oh yeah, come on in, Chava, we'd love to meet with you. Because they know he's a big donor, right? And Chava says, I hear that Frankie and all these other people are interested in having a swimming pool here to service the community, the high school members for team sports and that. And yet they listen to Chava. And it's just one of him. And he represents an interest group, and his interest group sees that down the road he's going to build a private pool and start charging people access to that. So, who, is anyone in the right or is anyone in the wrong in that particular situation?
I mean, he has the money, like, I mean, I guess it's not a wrong act that he's doing. They're getting, you know, Frankie's getting the pool, but he just has to pay for it. So at least he's getting something out of it in a way. Well, Salvador, he's the one who's donating all this money to the school, I guess, to get that pool.
No, to the school board members for
school
their
board.
personal elections.
It's basically like, and where I live, we have like this little like area of houses, and some people passed by our house. It was like 3 years ago that they passed by our house, and they had a petition of putting speed bumps in the little place where I live, because there's kids all over, and we're trying to protect the kids that live there by having the cars slow down, because they do speed through there. And they would come by often because they will have new people coming by. They would have petition after petition, and nobody would approve it because there were nobody. They had no voice, basically.
So you're saying money buys access to people who make decisions?
Yes.
Yep. So is it possible that special interest groups could have a disproportionate influence on public policy because of their money, even though there's a small number of them?
Alright, and then last question. How is joining an interest group be an advantage to your town or city? What would you gain by joining?
So what if everyone here joined Mothers Against Drunk Driving? Do any of you know anyone who's been involved in an alcohol-related automobile accident, or know someone who's been involved or been impacted by one? How would you feel if, as part of that interest group, you were able to help influence legislation and policy which significantly reduced drunk driving-related accidents because the penalties became so severe? Maybe there is a special interest group which tries to get speed bumps placed in places where children are often there and people are known to speed. If you join an interest group that gets together some money, starts making donations, gets access to elected officials, would that be worthwhile? It's tough. Special interest groups can be very positive, but they can also be very undermining of the democratic system. It's a dual-edged sword. You like it?